Fishing in St. John's Harbor, Thursday on Land and Sea. Tonight, blown away. A storm destroys herring weirs off Grand Manan. Backlash. Someone is cutting loose Micmac lobster traps on PEI. And it's a miracle. A Cape Breton girl hears for the first time.
The news for the Maritimes.
Good evening. After an absence of nearly 2 years, welcome back to the Maritimes Tonight. And we welcome a new audience to our program, the people of New Brunswick. And it was in New Brunswick today that herring fishermen were trying to deal with the mess left by a surprise storm. Juanita Peters reports.
The storm caught everyone by surprise. Fishermen say this storm caused more damage than 2 hurricanes in 1991. Some fishermen just recovering from that season have been hit yet again. Fishing is the major industry in Grand Manan. Today, they came to the realization that for most herring fishermen, the season is over.
Well, we have 2 weirs, and it's total destruction, I would say. The storm lasted 15 hours, and nothing would stand that.
Knight was one of the first to realize there was a major problem, despite original forecasts of 20 to 40-kilometer winds, a prediction they say let them down.
I think everybody here was semi-angry this morning when they got up from the standpoint that had they had more lead time, they would have done things differently. But the way the sequence of events unfolded, there wasn't enough time to get out and take down twine and cut things away so that, you know, the least amount of damage would occur and they wouldn't have too much material out there.
Most fishermen haven't had a chance to assess their own personal damage as of yet, but the problem on Campobello and Grand Manan is estimated to reach as much as $2.5 million. The Minister of Fisheries is expected to meet with the Grand Manan Fishermen's Association tomorrow. He'll take an aerial view of the area and examine the extent of this disaster. In Grand Manan, Juanita Peters, CBC News.
Joining us from the CBC newsroom in St. John is Juanita Peters. Hi, Juanita.
Hi there.
You mentioned the storm caused millions of dollars worth of damage. Just how expensive are those weirs?
Well, apparently by the time they get their stakes and their nets and everything that goes into making these weirs, it can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $120,000. Most people have 2 to 4 weirs, so we're talking big money.
Big bucks indeed. Did the Weather Office explain why it didn't predict the storm?
Well, we tried to get in touch with officials at Environment Canada today, and unsuccessfully, we just couldn't.
Who else besides those fishermen then are going to be hurt by this big storm?
Well, we talked to some representatives at Connors Brothers, and they say that they're going to be heading down to Grand Manan tomorrow to meet with the fisheries minister as well. 1,200 employees at their packing plant will be affected this week. Fortunately for them, though, they have 2 sources of gathering their fish. They have the weirs, which are now no more, most of them, and they also have something they call the purse seine fleet, which is taking the nets and going out and gathering up the fish that exist there, and that's what they'll be doing next week. So hopefully things will be back to normal.
And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
Some native fishermen on Prince Edward Island had their traps cut today. As Matthew Rainey reports, they blame it on retaliation by white fishermen.
A group of native fishermen assembled on Lennox Island tonight to talk about the past hectic 24 hours. But it was also a chance to get a lesson in law from this law school graduate.
See, the non-native fishermen have a privilege. They have to get a license. With us, we have that treaty to protect our right. We have a right. There's a big difference from a right to a privilege.
Several Micmacs from Lennox Island have been exercising their treaty rights this summer by fishing as much as they want and selling their catch. But many processors refuse to buy the lobster because they fear a boycott from commercial fishermen. So yesterday, about 55 Micmacs sold the lobster themselves on the Summerside Wharf. Their rate was $2 a pound, less than half the price of established retailers.
It would be nice if the white man could go by the same laws which you're going by, but we can't. We got to go by the laws the DFO sets down.
Well, this is
rules and regulations.
This is our law.
We're frustrated, and I got no income coming in but fishing because I had to apply for welfare today. I didn't want to do it, but I had to because I have 5 kids at home, and they have to eat like the rest of us.
The Micmacs say commercial fishermen retaliated against them today. They say the crew of about 9 commercial boats cut over 300 trap lines. Some buoys floated ashore this evening. The RCMP are still investigating.
Tensions are very, very high. This kind of activity can only lead to retaliation and once again, to warfare.
Micmac fishermen say they won't be scared off, and they'll continue to fish and sell until their treaty is defended in court.
Yes, I'll go back there and sell them, and I'll make sure. I'll tell them, charge me, take me in. You know, slap the chains on me, take me in. At least we'll get this out of the way before somebody does get killed, you know.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans hasn't recognized the treaty rights of the native people. It seized several hundred traps off of Lennox Island this summer. The department's area manager says he didn't know about the sale of lobster in Summerside yesterday, but next time there is such a sale, the department will be there. Some native fishermen say that could be as soon as tomorrow. Matthew Rainey, CBC News, Lennox Island.
For thousands of school children in the Maritimes, today was the first day of a new school year. Early morning lineups like this one at Rockingham Elementary and Junior High in Halifax could be found all over the Maritimes today. Students were wearing new clothes, meeting new classmates, and sorting out relationships. It looks as though these two young fellows are staking out turfs early. But for some, the first day of school can be overwhelming. But for some students, the first day of school didn't happen. Some parents in North Preston kept their children from school today in Dartmouth. The parents say they disagree with the school board decision to demote a black principal. Sandra Best was relieved of her duties as principal of Ross Road School. She was reassigned as vice principal at another school. Parents say the board's decision is a slap in the face for the black community.
They took the racist remark of a few Lawrencetown parents, and they acted upon it. Number one, it's a removal of Sandra Best, the only black principal in the area, in the subsystem in the county.
Parents and school board officials met later in a closed meeting. The students will be back in school tomorrow. And there was another school boycott today, this time in Port Elgin, New Brunswick. Hundreds of students took the day off with their parents' permission. They're protesting a school board decision to bus grade 9 students to a school in Sackville. The parents say busing students will mean their children will miss out on a quality rural education.
The strength of our province is in our kids, and the fact that they should have a good quality education in a rural environment is our main goal.
The school board says it is busing the students to save money.
I'm Doug Saunders. There was a time not so long ago when Taekwondo was a dying sport on Prince Edward Island. But these days, it's very much alive and, of course, kicking. That story and more coming up later in sports.
Well, Halifax City Council is once again caught in the middle of a dispute between taxi drivers and taxi companies. Tonight, Council heard from both sides in an effort to sort the whole thing out. Paul Barr was there and has this report.
Well, the city of Halifax has a lot of taxi cabs. At last count, more than 660. That's one cab for every 163 people who live in the city. Well, in most other Canadian cities, the average is more like one taxi for every 1,500 people. The cab drivers are trying to convince City Council that there's something out of whack with those numbers. So the city did what most elected bodies do when faced with a problem like this. They commissioned a study to try and get some answers.
The biggest questions seem to be, why are there so many questions still unanswered?
Well, the study seems to say that maybe there is and maybe there isn't too many cabs in the city of Halifax.
It seems like they tried to please everyone. They didn't want to offend the drivers. They didn't want to offend the brokers. They wanted to please the city. And we all know what happens anytime that's done.
This question about the number of cabs in the city of Halifax resurfaces every few years and then quietly dies. But this time, the cabbies say it's not going to go away.
Taxi drivers are united, and they're persistent. They will continue until it's done. It's not going to go away like in any other years before.
Why does this issue keep coming up and then going away and coming up and going away? What's the...
Well, we're just coming out of a recession. We've been in a recession, and it's hurt my business as well as the taxi drivers, and I think they're voicing their hurt.
Council says it'll do its best to try to ease that pain. Paul Barr, CBC News, Halifax.
Natasha Johnston has a new life. The youngster from Cape Breton was born deaf. Now, 9 years later, she can hear for the first time. Laurie Graham has her story.
what kind of a feeling we're going to use.
This is the first day of school for Terry Penny's hearing impaired class. It's a special day for everyone, but for Natasha Johnson, this is a day she'll never forget. She can hear her teacher for the first time in her life.
Can you list some of them for me? What's this? Sad. Sad.
Natasha was born deaf. She learned to communicate through sign language and lip reading. In June, she qualified for cochlear implant surgery that changed her life. Natasha had 22 electrodes implanted in her ear. The implant translates sound into electronic signals the brain understands as language. The brain picks up the signals with the help of these gadgets: a magnet, a microphone, and a processor. When the sound hits the magnet, it travels down to the processor and back up to the brain. Within a couple of seconds, Natasha hears things most people take for granted.
I can holler Natasha now as she comes, whereas before I would stand in my hallway, stomp my foot until she got the vibration. Then she'd know that I wanted her. But now I can call her name and she knows it and she comes. That itself is a miracle.
Natasha's new world looks bright, but she'll still have to see doctors and speech therapists for several years to be sure everything is okay. But for now, there are no problems. Natasha is just busy adjusting to a world of sound.
What's he going to do with all of those nuts?
Laurie Graham, CBC News, Sydney.
In other news around the Maritimes, the former skipper of Nova Scotia's Blue Nose wants his old job back.
Were you unfairly dismissed?
Are you deaf?
Captain Don Barr was fired last year after it was learned that he had sold the ship's engines and pocketed the money. But Barr insists he didn't sell the engines. He says he gave them away and pocketed a $6,000 consultant fee. He made an early attempt to get his job back and failed. Now he plans to appeal the decision before the Labor Standards Board. His hearing is scheduled for October. And still in Nova Scotia, NDP leader Alexa McDonough is going to be out of commission for the next 6 weeks. She's in hospital recovering from a hysterectomy. Her doctors say she's in good condition after the early morning surgery.
3, 2, 1.
CBC officially launched its first full station in New Brunswick today. The president of the CBC, Tony Manera, and Premier Frank McKenna were on hand for the ceremony at the Fredericton studios. Premier McKenna said he's pleased with the new station, but he joked about having more reporters around.
More CBC is just exactly what I need in New Brunswick. The rest of you. Is that what you want?
Okay, well, don't go away. I'll be right back with the weather, and Doug will have the sports. And speaking of New Brunswick, we saw the opening there of the new station, CBAT it's called.
CBAT, and the Premier is glad to have us aboard.
He is, I know, I could tell. But we're happy to be back, by golly.
Where have we been? That's what I can't figure out.
I'm not too sure, but you know, I'm going to say the same thing that I said when I came back from the U.S. a couple of years ago, and I was crossing the border, and the guy said, "What do you have to declare?" And I said, "Well, I declare it's good to be back." But anyway,
you take all the time. All the time.
I love turtles.
For 17 years, Quality Cameras has grown as Cape Breton's camera store with more. They were first in Eastern Canada to offer 1-hour photo finishing, and today continue to offer the best selection of top-name cameras and video supplies. Now, Quality Cameras has expanded to carry a full line of state-of-the-art Apple Mac computers and software, with the latest in computer applications for home and office, and the incredible Kodak Photo CD that shows your photographs on a home television. It's your camera store with more. Quality Cameras and Computers, George Street, Sydney.
Hi, how are you? Welcome to Walmart. Pardon the dust.
We're not a Walmart yet, but we will be soon. We're working hard to get better every day.
We're working hard to bring you better product selection.
We're working hard to bring you lower prices on everything in the store. We're working to bring you better customer service.
How are you this morning?
We're working for you.
We're working on it.
Come to the store that's becoming Canada's Walmart, where the people, products, and prices are better every day.
Until recently, if your kidneys failed, you had little or no hope. There's still no cure. So dialysis has to do what your kidneys can't. But you're totally dependent on a machine, several times a week, several hours at a time. Dialysis keeps you alive, but it's hope and continuing research that keep you living. During March, Kidney Month, more than 90,000 volunteers will be canvassing. Please be generous, because together we're giving the greatest gift of all, hope. Stevens Building Supplies, a Castle Building Center, has a message for all new home builders. Stevens has on hand most of all the materials you will need to build your home, plus a prefab department on the premises that will prepare components according to your house plans. This department is open year-round for your convenience, so you can build your home yourself or have Stevens build it for you. For more information on home building, contact Stevens Building Supplies, a Castle Building Center, Townsend Street, Sydney.
This is Julie. She's 12. Recently, she saved a heart attack victim because she knew the simple skill of CPR. Learning CPR only took 4 hours out of Julie's life. In return, she saved someone else's. Her father's. CPR, the reward of a lifetime.
Well, what a weekend. It was supposed to be sunny, and we were doing fine until Sunday evening, and all heck broke loose, not to mention tree limbs and various debris not nailed down. But that is all changing, and we'll get to the forecast in a moment. First conditions around the Maritimes at 10 o'clock. Fredericton reporting 14 degrees and cloudy, same temperature, but overcast in St. John and Moncton. St. Leonard, on the other hand, was 12, and it was raining there. Summerside and Charlottetown both reporting overcast skies with 15 and 16 degrees respectively. In Nova Scotia, Truro was 14 and overcast, Halifax and Yarmouth both 13. Halifax was overcast, Yarmouth cloudy. Sydney, which had a lot of sun today, was reporting a shower and 15 degrees. This evening's satellite shot shows the storm as it moved in a counterclockwise direction. The satellite shot, yes, along the Atlantic seaboard. The bigger shot will show the cloud mass. That's alliteration. At the extreme right of your screen, the major portion stayed offshore, so we didn't receive the full brunt, but there was a lot of damage, as you saw in the news, mostly by high seas and wind. Here are the forecasts, beginning with New Brunswick. Cloudy with showers or drizzle, up to 5 millimeters in the northern portion of the province. More things change. It should end overnight in the south with lows near 12 degrees. Wednesday, scattered morning showers in the north, remaining cloudy for the rest of the day. But in southern New Brunswick, look for some afternoon sunny breaks. Highs, 17 to 20. In Nova Scotia and PEI, a slightly different story. How's that? Some isolated showers in Cape Breton and PEI. Skies will begin to clear over mainland Nova Scotia. Winds west-southwest 30 with lows 11 to 13. Wednesday, the wind will come back southwest 30 with gusts to 50. Chance of some morning showers in PEI and Cape Breton, otherwise partly sunny. Highs near 18. 3-day outlook for all three provinces, a mixture of sun and cloud for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I believe your mic is on now, so you can...
My mic is on.
You can say whatever you want.
And folks, we apologize for those of you that have never seen Frank before. He occasionally gets his dentures mixed up with the wife's.
That's right. I'm sorry.
That's obviously what's happened tonight.
Sorry.
But anyways, we're going to get to some tennis sports coming up. Two of my favorite players, Gabriela Sabatini, Gigi Fernandez. That's next.
Water runs right through this strainer. But watch, not a drop comes through when it's sprayed with leak sealer. Spray leak sealer on a window screen. Look, not enough air comes through to blow out a match. If energy bills are draining your budget, leak sealer can save you big money. If outside air is blowing through your window frames, leak sealer stops it instantly, and you can paint right over it. Use leak sealer to stop basement seepage. And save up to 30% by preventing heat and cold from escaping from conduits or around air conditioners. For gutters that pour in a rainstorm, save an expensive soldering job. It's easy to stop air leaks through access holes in your RV, trailer, or truck. For roof and flashing leaks, don't call a repairman. Use Leak Sealer. Leak Sealer is guaranteed to pay for itself or return to place of purchase for full refund.
Available at participating Canadian Tire, Home Hardware, Pro Hardware, Trustworthy Hardware, Beaver Lumber, Kmart, Woolco, Zellers.
Ever tried getting blood from a stone? Doesn't work. That's why the Canadian Red Cross needs your help. Because the only way to get blood is to give blood. So please, give the gift of life.
Money.
bloody war going on here.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. We begin with tennis today, and what an incredible upset at the U.S. Open Championships in New York. The top men's seed and two-time defending champion Pete Sampras ousted today in the fourth round by little-known Peruvian Jaime Yazaga. It was a grueling five-set affair that twice saw Sampras on the verge of unconsciousness. Now, there were more predictable results in the women's action today, such as the match between number 8, Gabriela Sabatini, and her opponent, Gigi Fernandez. Sabatini, the number 8 seed, coming into this competition, and she used a big first serve in the opening set to go on to win it by a score of 6-2. But the big first serve was not the only weapon in Gabriela's bag today. She also used some great passing strokes. You'll see one of them here right down the line. Gigi Fernandez with no chance to get to that one. As I said, first set to Sabatini, 6-2 the final score. And she takes the second set, 7-5, to win it in straight sets, 1 hour and 20 minutes. Afterwards, Sabatini said she didn't feel she played particularly well, but well enough, nevertheless, to nail down the match when it counted.
But the good thing is that at the end, 30-all, I just went for the shots, and I went for my serve. I put those first serve in, and it was good. I played. I think I got out of it very well.
Well, one thing's for certain, Sabatini will have to improve her game dramatically before her next match. Her semifinal opponent will be Arantxa Sanchez Vicario, the world's number 2 ranked women player, a straight set winner today over Kimiko Date. You know, in recent years, the sport of Taekwondo has been on death's door in Prince Edward Island. But lately, it's been showing signs of a remarkable comeback. Last night, Nancy Russell caught up with a group of islanders who was taking an exam, as it was.
These students of Taekwondo relish this chance to show off for family and friends. There are about 85 people registered in the sport across the island. Taekwondo is a combination of Tai, which means to kick, Kwan, which means to punch, and Do, which is a certain attitude that the students must bring to the sport. After the demonstration, it's time for the main event of the evening, the black belt exam. All 3 of tonight's black belt hopefuls have studied Taekwondo off the island as well. Now they rely on visits from Master Chong Li from Montreal and trips to competitions across the Maritimes to keep their skills up to date. When the exams are over, Ken Hunt-Scharowitz is awarded his black belt. The other 2 candidates already have their black belts, but they're awarded 2nd and 3rd degrees in Taekwondo. With his 3rd degree black belt, Austin Boyd has the highest level of Taekwondo on the island. He also runs this Taekwondo school as a part-time business. In the fall, he'll be doing demonstrations in schools across the province. But Taekwondo can be a dangerous sport. Accidents can happen if the students aren't properly focused, as happened at this demonstration. But Austin Boyd says that focus is what he thinks students can learn from the sport.
We had kids come in here first. When they came in, I could turn my back and they'd be climbing up the walls. And we still have a few that are a little bit excited sometimes, but I mean, that's natural. They're kids. Attention spans, you wouldn't believe, multiplied tenfold.
Oh, it has changed a lot. Change the manners of the students and improvement and technically. Also, quite good discipline now is becoming quite well. I'm very satisfied. But I hope they will improve more.
Now that the exams are over, the 3 successful black belts will concentrate on passing on their knowledge to other students. But perhaps their biggest boost could come later this month, with the announcement that Taekwondo will become an Olympic sport by the year 2000. Nancy Russell, CBC News, Charlottetown.
In football, Henry Gizmo Williams makes his living eluding tacklers as a member of the Edmonton Eskimos. But earlier today, the Giz elected not to try to elude the long arm of the law. Williams is one of the most popular members of the Eskimos, but earlier this month he got into trouble at an Edmonton nightclub when a woman claimed he grabbed her by the throat and threatened her. Williams and his lawyer appeared before a magistrate today. They'll make another appearance this Thursday for a preliminary trial by judge and jury. All right, getting to some hockey news now. The NHL's Philadelphia Flyers have a new team captain. He is, not surprisingly, Eric Lindros. New coach Terry Murray saying it's high time that Lindros took on added responsibility. You may recall the Flyers obtained Lindros from Quebec 2 years ago for 6 players, 2 draft choices, and $15 million. Reluctant goaltender Billy Ranford has signed a 1-year contract with the Edmonton Oilers. No financial details released, although it's known the Oilers offered Ranford a 1-year deal worth about $2.7 million a week or so ago. Often injured winger Cam Neely has signed a 1-year deal with the Boston Bruins. He gets a base salary of $1.4 million, could earn another $1 million in incentives. And the Buffalo Sabres and center Pat LaFontaine have agreed to a new 5-year deal. It's worth $22.5 million. That's it, Francis. Thank you, Mr. Saunders. Well, researchers at Kejimkujik National Park are a happy bunch of people these days. They're celebrating over Blanding's turtles. There are only about 150 of these things left in the Maritimes. But as Catherine Clark reports, the scientists believe the crawlers may have a future after all.
It is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Every couple weeks, Al McDonald, a field assistant at Kejimkujik National Park, goes out to check on his charges. 5 juvenile Blanding's turtles that have buried themselves somewhere in this murky marsh. This is what all the fuss is about. Until this summer, no one knew where the young turtles hid themselves or if they existed at all. Park officials have been looking for their hiding place for 30 years. McDonald found them.
Pretty happy.
Ian Morrison has been studying the turtles for 2 years, and he says he will never forget the day the juveniles were found.
You knew how much time was spent looking for these critters up until this point, and the amount of effort that people put into locating juvenile turtles here in the park, and to finally be rewarded in one day with 4 juveniles, and then shortly after come up with another juvenile. It was the best news I had received in a long time. I was really excited.
Now that they have found the juveniles, park officials aren't about to let them go. Each has been outfitted with a transmitter, and every little while they'll be weighed and measured, their movements tracked. By the time this turtle reaches adulthood, it'll be the size of a hockey helmet. But for now, because its shell is soft, making it easy prey, this turtle will do what young Blandings have done for thousands of years. Hide. Catherine Clark, CBC News at Kejimkujik National Park.
Well, we're celebrating the fact that we're back. Here's to you, Francis.
And you too, sir.
Producer really splurging tonight.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What's your favorite wine?
I like the Nancy Kerrigan wine.
Do you?
Why?
Good night.
This is CBC.
Nova Scotia News comes first on First Edition. Stories that have a very real effect on you and your family.
We're dealing with what, the last 2 generations have, been working up and just ignoring.
The other big question is about the millions of dollars in prime Yarmouth waterfront real estate.
We'll bring you news from our communities, our province, our country.
But I'm going to keep pushing. And nobody's going to stop me.
News from the Nova Scotian point of view.
That's First Edition, weeknights at 6 on CBC.